Hey, what's up? So if you've been poking around in Nioh 3 lately, you might have noticed a tiny new update rolled out. First, the headline change. One bug that caused the hit timing for the Martial Art Deflect to be shorter on two samurai weapons, namely dual swords and cestuses, than on other weapons has been fixed. In practice, that meant those weapons had a slightly tighter deflect window than Nioh, which could make perfect timing feel randomly inconsistent if you switched between weapons or were comparing frame timings. Imagine mastering the rhythm on one weapon, then swapping to dual swords and feeling like your timing is suddenly off by just enough to get punished. That kind of inconsistency can mess with your confidence, especially in a game where precision matters. Fixing that evens the playing field, so defensive timing behaves predictably across the board, which is especially important if you build around precise parry windows or rely on stamina management during high-risk engagements. Players testing deflect frames had already noticed the discrepancy, and this patch essentially brings those weapons back in line with the rest of the roster. The second notable fix addresses an annoying progression blocker, a bug that prevented the maximum level enhancement from updating when acquiring soul cores. This sounds small on paper, but the bug could actually stop milestone tracking for trophy or achievement progression. And for completionists, that's the worst kind of invisible roadblock. You think you've enhanced everything correctly, you put in the grind, you invest the resources, and then a reward won't unlock because the game didn't register an update. That kind of thing doesn't just feel inconvenient, it feels unfair. The patch corrects that flow. So soul core enhancements update reliably, and players who were worried about missing trophies because of a detection issue can breathe a little easier. It's one of those back-end fixes that won't change how combat feels moment to moment, but it absolutely changes how secure your progression feels. Beyond those two items, the patch notes say other minor fixes, which is the catch-all phrase developers use for the little stability, UII, and edge case corrections that make the whole experience feel less fiddly. Think crash reduction, weird animation blips getting smoothed out, tiny menu hiccups that get tightened up, or rare cases where something doesn't trigger exactly as intended. These changes aren't glamorous, and they're not the kind of thing you can easily showcase in a dramatic clip, but they compound into a smoother play session over dozens of hours. When you're deep into late-game farming or running repeat missions, that background stability starts to matter more than any flashy mechanic tweak. It's also worth putting this small follow-up patch in context with the bigger update that dropped earlier in the week, which did a lot more heavy lifting in terms of balance and quality of life adjustments. That earlier patch made the first boss encounter a lot easier, which immediately changed the early game experience for new players. It added an acolyte, a benevolent brave you can call upon without using Ochoko cups in the mission. Escape from Hidakoto's slope, giving players a bit more breathing room in what was previously a punishing introduction. That alone shifted the onboarding difficulty curve in a noticeable way. On top of that, the update made it possible to set equipment from different styles in equipment appearance, which might not sound huge, but actually gives players more flexibility in how they present their builds visually without compromising stats. Fashion and function finally had a better balance. There were also a massive number of gameplay-related adjustments, particularly around crest protections. Some crests saw increases to their effects, like improved key consumption reductions or better elemental damage mitigation, while others had their power toned down to prevent certain stacking strategies from getting out of control. For example, some damage taken while attacking effects were decreased, while other defensive or situational bonuses were strengthened. Guardian spirits and soul cores weren't ignored either. Certain soul cores had their offensive bonuses boosted, such as strong attack damage increases, while defensive stacking related to taking reduced damage during attacks was adjusted downward. Some effects tied to ranged interactions, bullseye bonuses, or specific combat states were increased to encourage more varied playstyles. Even glory acquisition saw tweaks, with increased amounts obtainable by lower-ranking players in clan battles and boosts to rewards from expeditions, visitor summons, bloody graves, and benevolent graves. That kind of economy tuning can have a ripple effect on long-term progression and clan competition. There were also subtle mechanical refinements like prioritizing key pulse and stance change when performed at the same time as interact, which reduces accidental misinputs in high-pressure moments. Soul core display sorting was improved to show same type or same rarity cores by level, and item filtering got an added set bonus option. Even the change your appearance menu in the Eternal Rift became available faster, trimming down wait times and keeping momentum going. Compared to that wave of balance adjustments and system refinements, this latest patch is undeniably smaller. It's focused. It targets two specific issues: deflect timing inconsistency for dual swords and cestuses, and soul core enhancement progression tracking, and then cleanse up miscellaneous minor bugs behind the scenes. That's about it. It's not as big as the last update released earlier this week that made the first boss fight a lot easier. But that doesn't mean it's unimportant. In fact, patches like this are often the glue that holds bigger updates together. You can rebalance numbers and rework systems all you want, but if weapon timing feels inconsistent or achievements don't unlock properly, players lose trust in the system. By tightening deflect timing so it matches across weapons and ensuring enhancement levels update correctly, the developers are reinforcing reliability, team. And in a combat-heavy action RPG like Nioh 3, reliability is everything. When you press deflect, you need to know the window is fair. When you enhance a soul core, you need to know the system recognizes your progress. So while this update won't force you to rethink your build or dramatically change how you approach encounters, it smooths out two meaningful friction points: cleaner, defensive timing for specific weapons, accurate progression tracking for enhancements, and quiet stability improvements in the background. Sometimes the smallest patches are the ones that make the game feel the most solid, not because they transform it, but because they remove those little cracks you kept noticing in the corner of your experience.